WTVF, Nashville.
This is the CBS Evening News with Roger Mudd substituting for Walter Cronkite.
Good evening. It has been weeks since anyone in Washington believed the Senate would ratify the SALT Treaty. But today, President Carter asked that debate on the moribund treaty be formally suspended as a form of retaliation against the Soviet Union. Leslie Stahl reports from the White House.
Faced with overwhelming opposition to SALT II in the Senate, the president sent a letter to Majority Leader Robert Byrd asking for a delay in consideration of the treaty for an indefinite period of time.
While the president continues to believe that ratification of the SALT II treaty is in the national security interest of the United States, he has concluded that the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, in defiance of the United Nations Charter, has made consideration of the SALT II treaty inappropriate at this time.
Byrd quickly agreed with the request. The president will ask Congress instead to take up some new measures needed to respond to the crisis, measures that could mean increased military aid for Pakistan. Spokesman Powell said that the president hopes that SALT II is not dead, but several senators have other ideas.
I think the president made the right decision in postponing SALT. It would have been a better decision to withdraw SALT. I think SALT is dead as a doornail in the Senate.
The SALT process is temporarily paralyzed, if not dead. The treaty was in serious trouble before Afghanistan. Right now, the chances of moving that treaty in the Senate are nil.
I think the Russians were smart enough to know, because they have, Lord Harry, about 200 lobbyists from the embassy all over Capitol Hill, that SALT wasn't going to pass anyway. So with Afghanistan as a great target of opportunity, they didn't hesitate to undertake a program of naked aggression.
I agree with the president's decision. It's in line with the position that I've taken ever since the outbreak of the Iranian crisis. I think the political climate is not conducive at this time to the consideration of an arms control agreement with the Soviet Union.
As if the administration's problems with Afghanistan aren't enough, CBS News has learned that the Soviet Union exploded an underground nuclear device on December 23rd, which may have exceeded the limit placed on such explosions under the Threshold Test Ban Treaty, signed by Mr. Nixon and Mr. Brezhnev in Moscow in 1974, but never ratified by the U.S. Senate. According to administration sources, the yield of the explosion was somewhere between 110 and 180 kilotons. The treaty's limit is 150 kilotons. The Pentagon says the test data is now being analyzed. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, the White House.
The Soviet Union was quick with a counterattack against President Carter, and it was blistering. Mike Lee reports from Moscow.
The official news agency TASS, which reflects Soviet government policy, this evening claimed that President Carter used the Afghan crisis as a pretext for postponing SALT II, which TASS claims the United States needs just as much as the Soviet Union. In a sharp escalation of its rhetoric on the Afghan crisis, TASS also accused the Carter administration of breaking all records of hypocrisy and lies in what TASS called a frenzied propaganda outcry. TASS characterized President Carter as being bellicose and wicked in his recent public remarks on Afghanistan. The U.S. president, says TASS, maliciously attacked the Soviet Union's policy, distorted its essence and meaning. He spoke about some Soviet invasion of Afghanistan and threatened serious political consequences and action. TASS went on to restate the Kremlin's claim that the Soviet military involvement in Afghanistan is limited in scope and by invitation from the Afghan government to fight what TASS calls American and Chinese-backed aggression.
The prospect of a diplomatic crisis, along with Soviet impatience and skepticism over SALT II prospects, were apparently weighed here against what the Kremlin feels it has at stake in Afghanistan. It's no secret that a Muslim takeover there would not only cost the Kremlin a friendly buffer state, but could touch off Islamic unrest inside parts of the Soviet Union. Informed sources point out that traditionally, when the Soviets feel that their vital interests at home or near home are in danger, they act first, then pick up the pieces. Mike Lee, CBS News, Moscow.
One possible retaliation against the Soviets is an embargo on U.S. grain sales. Perhaps because of this, Moscow has made its largest single purchase of American corn and wheat in almost 6 years. The Agriculture Department said today the Soviets have bought an additional 3.8 million metric tons of grain, pushing the total sales to 86% of their allowance for the year. The Soviet troops in Afghanistan reportedly have suffered their first major defeat northwest of Kabul in Bamiyan. Afghan rebels claim they ambushed a Soviet column, blew up tanks and armored vehicles with mines, and forced the Soviet troops to withdraw. But the Soviets are said to have captured the cities of Jalalabad and Kandahar after 2 days of fighting and are gearing up for major battles in 4 provinces on all sides of Kabul. If there was any doubt that the Soviets planned to remain in Afghanistan a while, it was removed today. The Russian ruble was declared the country's official currency. And the international protest over the Soviet intervention claimed its first life today. A Turkish student in Istanbul was killed by government security police during a demonstration outside the Soviet consulate.
I don't want any. No way.
Have you ever heard that when trying to give your child diarrhea medicine? Well, now that Upjohn has developed mint-flavored kaopectate concentrate, you won't hear it. Doctors recommend it for the whole family. Kaopectate concentrate's mint flavor tastes good enough even for children. And because it's concentrated, you take less. Kaopectate concentrate. It tastes good, and you take less.
Thursday the 1st, 7:30 a.m. Man in mirror looks old. Gray hair has got to go. Used Grecian formula for the first time. Looks like water. No mess. Tuesday the 6th, gray hair slowly disappearing. Monday the 12th, more gray gone. Nobody noticing. Sunday the 18th, hair looks perfectly natural. Feels healthy too. Wife likes touch of gray I left around the sides. Boss says I look great. Asks if I've lost weight. Fact, without all that gray, I look like myself again. Grecian formula, liquid and cream.
The 61st day of the Iranian crisis brought bad news for UN Secretary General Waldheim, who is in Tehran trying to free the American hostages. He was rebuffed by the one man who could end the diplomatic war between Iran and the United States. Bert Quint reports.
It was after Mr. Waldheim's meeting with members of the Revolutionary Council tonight that the word became as official as anything ever is in Tehran. 2 council members told reporters that Ayatollah Khomeini has decided against seeing the Secretary General on this visit. Sources close to the UN chief later confirmed that Waldheim has been told there would be no meeting for the present with the one man who can make the decision to free the hostages. Nevertheless, after the meeting, Waldheim spoke as though his mission was still alive.
I think this meeting was very helpful in order to achieve a peaceful settlement. The members of the Revolutionary Council explained to me their position, and I, of course, put to them my views in regard to the problem in all its 8 aspects.
Did you bring up the matter of the American hostages?
Everything was brought up.
The preliminary phase of the mission ended with visits to 2 shrines of the revolution. The first, the cemetery south of Tehran, where Waldheim was to leave a wreath for the tombs of the known soldiers of the uprising that toppled the Shah. Thousands of men, women, and children killed by the police and army. Here he encountered a bitter welcome. Mourners massed around his car. Death to the Shah, to Carter, to America, they shouted. They jeered Waldheim and the UN. Though they made no attempt to harm him, the UN chief seemed to pale as he watched the threatening gestures and listened to the screams. He left the cemetery quickly. Later, another emotional experience at a center for persons maimed during the revolution. Waldheim listened gravely as invalids recounted their tales of official savagery and then promised to tell their story to the UN. Some observers here believe that if Iran's leaders can find an international platform for the airing of these grievances, and the UN conceivably could provide that platform, negotiations for the release of the hostages might follow. Mr. Waldheim seems to be working toward that end, but he makes it clear that he doesn't believe it can be achieved quickly. Bert Quint, CBS News, Tehran.
Iranian Foreign Minister Ghazpazadeh is a virtual creation of Khomeini and publicly has demonstrated his loyalty, but privately his support of Iran's strongman may be waning. Marvin Kalb reports from the State Department.
Ghazpazadeh is quoted as having told recent visitors that in his view, Khomeini is out of touch with political reality, unaware of the profound impact the crisis has had on Iran's increasingly vulnerable position in the world and on the American people's impatience to do something about it. The foreign minister is said to believe that Khomeini is isolated, cut off from the kind of political and diplomatic intelligence that is required to run a country as pivotal as Iran. Ghazpazadeh admits that his foreign ministry has no control over the militants holding the U.S. Embassy compound and that even Khomeini has to be careful about his relations with them. Increasingly, the militants are seen as an independent force captivated by Khomeini, but not necessarily controlled by him. U.S. officials say Ghazpazadeh's relations with the militants have been rocky. They also say they have no evidence suggesting any imminent breakthrough in the crisis. Marvin Kalb, CBS News, the State Department.
The Immigration and Naturalization Service says it interviewed more than 56,000 Iranian students in the United States and found that 1 in 8 is here illegally. In addition, 9,000 more Iranian students in this country fail to show up for their visa checks and could be deported if they can be found.
Excuse me, what did you have for dinner?
Underdone chicken and an overdrawn bank account.
And then?
Indigestion.
Indigestion? Pepto-Bismol. And what did you have for dinner?
A little of this, a little of that, and a lot of in-laws.
And then?
Indigestion.
Indigestion? Pepto-Bismol. It coats, soothes, relieves.
Kmart. Dollar Day. Slashed prices. Kmart price. On hundreds of items throughout the store. Your savings store. Extra savings. Kmart savings. In every department during Dollar Day. Dollar Day. At Kmart. Check your newspaper supplement for the prices. Low prices. And save. Save during Dollar Day. Dollar Days. Now through Saturday. At Kmart.
Because the glint of gold catches everybody's eye, the great gold rush goes on. But the buying spree has spread to other metals too. Ray Brady reports.
At 7.5, hurry! It's the sound of panic. A panic to buy gold, one that sent the price hurtling up to another new high, $634 an ounce at the London close. Up in one day more than $74 an ounce. Much of the buying is coming because of the tense situation in Iran and Afghanistan. Gold traders add many buyers are especially concerned because of what they see as the U.S. inability to handle either crisis.
It's obvious that we feel we're not doing enough, otherwise these prices won't be where they are right now.
So this is a judgment on Iran and Afghanistan?
Definitely. Not only from America, but throughout the world.
Also pushing up the price of gold, the ballooning price of OPEC oil. $12.70 a barrel a year ago and averaged $27 a barrel now. To pay that big jump on its oil bill, investors feel the U.S. will have to print more dollars. But that means more inflation. So money is going into gold. And that includes money from the people who sold us that oil.
The Mideast is the big buyers in gold. The oil people certainly seem to want gold preferable to the American dollar or even the European currencies.
The gold rush is spilling over to other metals, bringing price rises that already are being felt by consumers. Copper is one of the most widely used of all metals. In 1 year, it has gone up 60%. Platinum, a prime catalyst for making gasoline, is up almost 125%. And silver is up a staggering 520%, pulled up again by the price of gold.
Even veteran traders say things are so hectic they have no idea what will happen next. But gold is a comparatively small market, much smaller, say, than the stock market, so that gold can have wild swings in price both up and down. Ray Brady, CBS News, New York.
Unless you got a raise this week, your paycheck will be smaller than before. That's because withholding for Social Security is taking a bigger bite. Jacqueline Adams has details.
1980 may be the last year Americans accept their Social Security tax increases calmly. That's because the increase is small this year and will affect only 9% of all taxpayers. People earning more than $22,900 will see an increase, but only those earning $25,900 or more will pay the full amount. That's $183.90 more than last year. But the picture worsens throughout the 1980s if Social Security continues to be funded by a steadily increasing payroll tax. Every taxpayer will lose a bigger chunk of his paycheck to Social Security next year and again in 1982, 1985, and 1986. Most people never pay the maximum yearly Social Security tax because they don't earn the maximum taxable income. But those who do will see their Social Security taxes rise dramatically, up a whopping $387 next year and between $170 and $300 for each of the next 7 years. Not only will each taxpayer have to shell out more each week, but his employer will as well.
The revenues have got to be there. I think we owe that to America, and I think that's where the #1 priority for the people of this country is, to maintain a sound Social Security system where we know the benefits are going to be there when they're due us.
Critics warn that parts of the Social Security system could run out of money by the early 80s. There are 3 main reasons. Benefit payments are rising along with inflation. Revenues are expected to drop off when, during the recession, more taxpayers are either laid off or take early retirement. And as the current population ages and birth rates decline, there are fewer workers to contribute to the system.
Well, I think we'll stagger on for another couple of years with the Social Security system, which is very unfair and adds to unemployment and adds to inflation. And then maybe we'll come to our senses and do it right.
There are no easy solutions. Congress could cut Social Security benefits, raise the age of eligibility, fund Medicare or disability payments out of general revenues, or refinance the entire system. A national sales tax or value-added tax is now pending in Congress as a means of refinancing the Social Security system. Critics say, however, that shifting from a payroll tax to a sales tax continues to burden the average citizen.
There's no way out of it. Either we make the system less generous or we pay the taxes, and the tax burden will have to be borne by proportionately a smaller part of the population.
In this election year, there is no consensus in Congress or the White House on whether or how to refinance the Social Security system, despite the assurance of a steadily rising payroll tax and projections of a severe shortfall in the near future. The administration, however, is expected to ask for a cut in Social Security taxes in 1980 to put a few dollars back into American pockets. Jacqueline Adams, CBS News, Washington.
The Carter administration reversed itself today and called for a 5-year extension of the revenue-sharing program. However, a spokesman said changes will be proposed in eligibility and allocation procedures that could cut an unspecified number of local government projects from the $6.9 billion a year program. And the stock market today was down in trading of 50,480,000 shares.
Diggs Formula 44D, please.
Helen, with this nasty cough plus congestion, I need
Formula 44D.
But Helen, I need a decongestant, not just strong cough medicine.
You need Formula 44D. It's strong like Formula 44, has the strongest non-narcotic cough suppressant you can buy, plus ingredients to help unstuff your nose and loosen up for chest congestion.
That's what I said. Formula 44D, strong for coughs plus congestion.
And I love this clock. Why so nervous?
Sorry. The doctor says caffeine makes me tense.
Well, don't you drink Sanka brand decaffeinated coffee?
Oh, I bought that for my husband. I only drink real coffee.
Sanka brand is real coffee, and taste it. Try it.
It is real. Real good.
And what's new in antiques?
Everyone says I'm new since I switched to Sanka brand.
Sanka brand, the coffee that lets you be your best.
A federal judge in Abington, Virginia ruled today that strip miners will not have to restore land to its original contours after taking out the coal. The judge also declared two other provisions of the Surface Mining and Reclamation Act to be unconstitutional. Those allowed the government to stop mining without a hearing and allowed any complainant to block mining operations. The government is expected to appeal. The initial police report said the Miami businessman died after he lost his helmet and struck his head on the pavement following his loss of control of his motorcycle. But the medical examiner reported that the dead man's skull was cracked like an egg by long, heavy, blunt objects. As the case moved to a courtroom today, it raised accusations of widespread police brutality. Ed Rabel reports.
2 of the 5 white Dade County police officers charged in the fatal beating of a black man pleaded innocent today in a Miami courtroom. The 3 others will be arraigned later. Arthur McDuffie was a former Marine, an insurance executive, and the father of 3 children. McDuffie, who tried to elude police after speeding through a red light, reportedly resisted arrest. Police say McDuffie, who was unarmed, threw some punches at arresting officers who outnumbered him, handcuffed him, and allegedly proceeded to bash in his skull. Although the investigation is continuing, the only witnesses to the late-night incident last month are believed to be the accused and several other policemen. The accused are also charged with a cover-up in which evidence was allegedly fabricated. All this has outraged the Miami black community.
Police brutality, which black people have been crying about for a long time, has to stop. It has to stop. And people who don't regard and with respect and courtesy black people and other citizens, that they will pay the maximum penalty for hurting people and killing people.
Hostility toward the Miami police stems from what some here call the combat zone mentality of the police patrolling black neighborhoods.
The community has the expectation that properly trained and psychologically screened people will be assigned to that work. These events must not be the kind of police performance which characterizes police work here. And that would be intolerable to the community and is intolerable.
Miami blacks and whites have joined to demand severe punishment for those responsible for the beating. Some asked angrily why the state did not charge the police with second-degree murder instead of manslaughter.
We intend to prosecute these cases as vigorously as possible. If we get convictions, we intend to ask for the maximum sentence. And I think if anybody looked at the law and looked at the sentences provided for the charges that we filed, they would realize that there is not that much difference, if any, at all, between the sentences for other charges and the sentences for these.
Meanwhile, the state cautions that public demands for murder charges and maximum punishment could trigger a change of venue, moving the trial someplace else where a jury might go easier on the accused. In other words, prosecution spokesmen say cries for harsh punishment could bring about just the opposite. Ed Rabel, CBS News, Miami.
There he goes, Miss America's troubadour. But Bert Parks, who was master of ceremonies for the Miss America pageant for 25 years, learned from newsmen today that he'd been fired. A pageant spokesman said, "We want to start the decade with a new look, a younger image." The 65-year-old Parks said, "I never thought they'd pull a trick like this. This is a little shabby. I think it's their loss." The pageant director said he himself is being compared with the Ayatollah Khomeini. Yugoslav President Tito has been admitted to a hospital for what his doctors say is examination of his leg blood vessels. Tito has suffered from sciatica, a painful hip and thigh ailment. He is 87 years old. Cambodia's new regime has released records claiming that at least 12 foreigners, including 4 Americans, were jailed and executed by the ousted Khmer Rouge. According to a UPI report from Phnom Penh, the foreigners, among 14,000 persons who were jailed and killed, were executed after confessing under torture to working for the CIA.
What's the most important part of my day? I think my night, because that's the only time I have to really unwind, put the day behind me and get the rest I need. But some nights I have trouble falling asleep, so I take Sominex. Sominex helps me feel drowsy so I can get to sleep.
Sominex, America's #1 sleep aid. When you sometimes have trouble falling asleep, Sominex will work for you.
I'm having a real good day because I got to sleep last night.
Is that the Publishers Clearinghouse triple sweepstakes you just got? How come you haven't sent it in?
I'm too busy to enter contests.
That's what we used to think.
You'd have to be a fool to think you'd win.
That's what I used to think.
They don't really give away all those prizes.
That's what I used to think.
You know that Publishers Clearinghouse triple sweepstakes you just got? What's your reason for not sending it in? Lots of clearinghouse winners used to think that too. Come on, send it in.
The latest honors list from Buckingham Palace knighted a movie director, but he's accustomed to honors. He is the only director with his own magazine, the only director almost as familiar to audiences as his stars, Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart, and Ingrid Bergman. Sir Alfred Hitchcock accepted his knighthood in Hollywood today, and Terry Drinkwater was there.
Back in 1929, he gave us Blackmail, and through all of his films, he gave us cameos of himself, along with the hundreds of murders. Alfred Hitchcock, the master of suspense cinema, appearing just briefly to remind us that the horror wasn't really real. He gave us North by Northwest, Psycho, and is now at work on another. In her New Year's honors list, the Queen of his native England gave him the title Sir. Alfred Hitchcock, Knight Commander of the Order of the British Empire. The London tabloids headlined Sir Alfred, the Knight of Terror, and Sir Shocker, named by Elizabeth II. Today, the 80-year-old Hitchcock received the Queen's representative and the press. He was asked, what does a maker of mystery do when he's made a Sir?
Well, the first obvious thing he does is to go out into the night.
Sir Alfred, will this change any of the relationships you have with your wife, being knighted?
I hope so.
And why did the Queen appear to overlook knighting you for so many years?
I suppose it was a matter of carelessness.
Sir Alfred was born quite without title in 1899 in Essex. He hopes he will be able to journey to London to receive the accolade from the Queen herself. And Hitchcock adds, he's not at all afraid of her sword. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, Hollywood.
That's the CBS Evening News this Thursday. I'm Roger Mudd. Good night.
Taster's Choice freeze-dried coffee, the image of ground roast, the crunch, the aroma, and the flavor. And now, with ground roast prices rising, it's good to know that a half a pound of Taster's Choice can make as many cups as 2 pounds of ground roast. So you could be saving with Taster's Choice, regular and decaffeinated, while still getting the look, smell, and taste of ground roast coffee.
Back half of my head.
Colin Gardenier has a headache.
Will you try extra strength Tylenol?
I will try it if it's going to help.
Compare the levels of medicine in the leading regular and extra ingredient pain relievers. Extra strength Tylenol has more medicine.
How do you feel?
Super. My headache has disappeared. I was about to ask you if I could take some of these with me. It seems to really have done the job.
Extra strength Tylenol, aspirin free, and you can't buy a more potent pain reliever without a prescription.
I feel great.
This has been the CBS Evening News with Roger Mudd substituting for Walter Cronkite.
I'm Bob Schieffer. Much of the news involving the crises in Iran and Afghanistan happens while most Americans are asleep. We'll have the latest here on Friday morning.
This is CBS.
A special report on a child abuse case coming up